In today's episode, I talk about change, how you can recognize that a change is imminent in your own life, and the steps that you can take to manifest that change. Hello, and welcome to Finding Your Light Within, with me, Andrew Mark. This channel is dedicated to helping you live a fulfilled life, a life that's in synchronicity with the person that's inside of you, the true you. Please do like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Let me know what changes you're thinking of making and the steps that you're going to take to make those changes. In the video, there's a surprise guest, so please watch all the way through to discover who it is. Thank you so much for watching. Here's the video. So how do we know change is imminent in our lives? And if we know, what do we do about it? So this week I had a meeting after work with some of the other staff that I work with. And some of the teachers from another school came over too. And I had this feeling of almost being an imposter in that situation. It felt as though I was an outsider looking in. I felt like I didn't really belong in the room. Well, of course I did. These are colleagues I've worked with for the last 7 years, some of them. I know them very well. And the topic was a topic that I'm passionate about. It was related to the water, about swimming. You can hear the sound of the powerboat in the background. That's the Surf Lifesaving Club at the beach doing their practice drills. So yes, I was an outsider, an imposter. That's the feeling I had. And I haven't felt that before, and I found it kind of unnerving. I've really enjoyed being a teacher. I really have. But these last few months, I've started to feel like I'm distancing myself from it. I'm pulling away. And I feel that now. What happened to me during the week was very reminiscent of another situation I had. That would have been about 21 years ago when I was in my corporate life. A completely different lifetime, it feels like. And back then, I'd been up to Glasgow. Had to go to a meeting, a workshop up in Glasgow. So I'd flown up from London, up to Glasgow, been to the office. And leaving the office, I was with a couple of colleagues. We were heading back to the airport together. So a taxi pulled up to pick us up. And my colleagues jumped in the back. And I jumped in the front next to the driver. Now, as I got in, the driver automatically turned down the music. But it was already too late. I'd heard what he was playing. He had been playing the Proclaimers. I can't remember what song, but I just recognised the voices. And so I said, oh, that was the Proclaimers, wasn't it? I said, you don't have to turn that down. He said, oh, no, it's okay. And he turned the music down. But I was intrigued. And so I started this conversation about music, about Scottish music. And I've been following Scottish bands like Deacon Blue, I love. Their song Dignity has real meaning for me. Very significant meaning. Texas, another band I love. There was a band in the late 80s and early 90s called Gun. I used to really enjoy their music, especially their first album. And there's many others too. And so we were talking about the Glasgow and the Scottish music scene. There was a pause in the conversation which allowed me to overhear what was happening in the back with my colleagues. And they were just ensconced, talking about the business, about the deal that we'd been working on and workshopping together, and upcoming deals and what they were doing in their careers and all kinds of things like that. And I sort of just listened into them for a few moments, and it gave me this feeling of being an outsider. Like I could do the job just like they could. You know, I was part of the team. I was an integral part of the team, right? And I could do the work and I could do the job. But I had this feeling of being an imposter because I knew in my own heart, deep down inside of me, I knew that what I actually wanted to do was talk to the driver about music. I'd much rather talk about music and other things that I find much more engaging and interesting than about the business. And it told me something. It was like this message to me, this sign that I was actually living a lie. I wasn't living my truth. And it was really clear to me in that moment, all the way back then, that yes, I could do the job. Yes, I could put on the suit and I could put on the cufflinks and the silk tie and the nice shirts and things. And I could go through the motions. And I obviously was doing okay at it because I was successful. I was having a good career. I'd gained promotions through the company and I was just, I was really doing pretty good for myself. But it wasn't enough and I knew it. I wasn't truly fulfilled. And in my own heart, I knew that I had to do something else, that I was just living this falsehood. And all these things were coming together around the same time frame. Just a couple of years before, maybe 3 years before, I'd read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, about the story about following your dreams, following the voice of your heart, if you like. What I call your inner life force, that voice from deep within, from within your DNA. And so I knew at that moment I had to do something, that change was imminent. That's the feeling I had this last week, and that change is imminent. I recognise that I'm feeling distant from a job that I used to feel very passionate about. That spark has diminished. And for me, because I live so much from within, that voice within, so for me, if that spark diminishes and I don't feel it anymore, I can't continue with it. It's not fair. Now, so I know a change is coming. I can feel it. Now, I don't know when that will happen. 21 years ago, it didn't happen immediately. I made a note of it, and I think that's important. You recognise it, you make a note of it, a mental note, or you could even write it down, and you let it sit with you. And it sits with you, and you see, it's almost like you're testing out the truth of it. Is that really what's happening? Is that really what you feel? Because stepping out of your career and having a complete change, that's a big deal. And I wouldn't advise anybody to do it lightly. No, I think you have to ponder it and make sure. At least I do. Maybe you could be different. You could be a risk taker. I'm a little bit more cautious. I like to make sure I have options before I jump forwards. But I will start to create those options, and I will start the thought process now of what it is I need to do, where I need to go, and what's my move forward. I have some ideas, but they're not concrete enough yet for me to jump forward. So I'm beginning the process of moving away. And I noticed that also today, that I am, and this is what I did actually in my career, but just before I quit my corporate career, I started to back out. I was working from home more and more often and slowly cutting the ties with my colleagues. I didn't go into the office. I didn't see them on a daily basis any longer. And so it was easier when the time came and actually quit. It was much easier to say that I'm quitting because I'd cut ties and those relationships. And I feel that partly I'm beginning that process again. And history does repeat itself. It's true. So you can recognise that. Now, it may not be just your career that you feel like you need to change. It could be your relationship. And I know also in the past, I've done the same things. The moment that I feel the relationship doesn't work for me, I start to distance and pull myself away. I've got somebody down the path waiting for me. They've got a dog, and they don't realise how much I love dogs. So not a problem, and it's a little tiny thing as well. So not a problem for me. So yeah, my relationships, I back away. I start to pull out, and because I lose the feeling, and I just wait and I test it, and I see how I feel about it. This dog's really cute. You should see it. Hello. I'm just doing some recording, saying you stopped waiting for me, and you have no idea how much I love dogs.
Oh no, he's a puppy in training.
Oh, I can see it's a puppy. Yeah.
To say hi.
Did you wanna? I don't know if you can. No, it's not live or anything. Hello. I don't know. I can really see. I can't even see the screen with the sun. Hello. How's it going? What a cutie.
It took a long time to fix it, to try and get him that far.
Oh, really? I won't corrupt it then.
No,
Keep going. Yeah, you too. See you. Yes, what was I saying? Oh, yes, relationships. I personally would start to back out of a relationship if I felt it wasn't working. And it was probably, and I know it wasn't fair to the other person. But I wasn't ready and I wasn't sure, so I just waited. And I became more distant. And at some point, I knew there was just absolute certainty that the inner feeling I had gone and I couldn't recover it. And so at that point, I would finish the relationship. And I think that's true of all changes. You have to know the point, and then when you do, you have to change. You do have to make that change. Early on in my life, when I first started working, I was working in an office and people used to complain about it. And they used to moan regularly. You'd hear people, other staff, complaining and moaning about the company. I used to think to myself, well, if it's that bad, why don't you leave? Just quit. Go do something else. Nobody's making you stay. Now, I get it, you have financial commitments and whatever, but surely you could start looking for yourself and progress your life forward in a positive way. And I think that was one of those key moments where I realised that if things don't work or aren't working for you, you just have to make the change. So this is all about change. I'm just reaching the end of the path, and I don't know if you guys can see because the sun's over on my right hand side, so it's on the screen. There's some surfers in the water, there's a bit of swell, tide's getting low, and then over this side, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, is the Mount Taranaki volcano. I'm not sure I've lined that up very well for you. Anyway, so change, yes, it's coming. And if you feel it, I think you have to act on it. You have to live from the heart. You have to live your truth. That, for me, is absolutely fundamental. I have to be me. I've tried not to be. Oh, no, not tried not to be. That's not quite the right way of putting it. I've pretended to be somebody else to fit in. I've done that a lot in my life, particularly when I was younger, because I was afraid of myself, afraid of my voice, afraid of who I was. And I allowed things to happen to me that were very negative. And I don't want that anymore. I have to be positive for my own life. And I've learned that. And so that's why I take charge of it. And if I feel there's something I have to do, then I'm going to do it. And I won't back away. And I think that's important because it is your life. And it is the only life you've got, as far as we know. Because I haven't met anyone who's come back and said, actually, this is my third time around. And this time I'm doing it differently. We just don't know, right? We don't know when our time is. We're going to start walking like somebody else, as a surfer, coming down the path to go out. And the sun's right in my eyes, so we have to put the sunglasses on. So we just don't know when our time is. It's our one life, it's our one go. That's the assumption I'm making. And so you have to make the best of it. So I'm going to finish there because the sun's in my eyes, it's getting lower. I'll finish there and I'll just say, whatever you're thinking of, whatever change you're thinking of, leave a comment for me, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And if there's any help or advice I can give to you on the subject, of course I will. So please like, subscribe, leave a comment. And until the next time, this is Andrew Mark for Finding Your Light Within. See you. Bye-bye.